finish up, as I know the time is late. I want to just read the last two fatawa, the fatwa min Shaykh Ibn Baz and Shaykh Uthaymeen, and a very small statement from Shaykh al-Albani. There's not much left, ikhwan. It's a little bit different from that which we have read already, so I want to make sure we brought some benefit from these statements. Shaykh Ibn Baz, he says, rahimahullah, لا يجوز للمسلم ولا المسلم المشاركة النصارى أو اليهود أو غيرهم من الكفرة في أعيادهم بل يجب ترك ذلك. Ibn Baz said it is not permissible for the male Muslim nor the female Muslim to share and cooperate with the Christians and the Jews or other than them from the disbelievers in their celebrations and their holidays. Rather, it is obligatory to leave that off, to abandon it. لأن من تشبه بقوم فهو منهم, because whoever imitates a people, then he is from them. والرسول عليه الصلاة والسلام حذرنا من مشابهتهم وتخلق بأخلاقهم, and because the Prophet ﷺ warned us against imitating them and adorning ourselves with their etiquettes or following their etiquette and their mannerisms. فعلى المؤمن وعلى المؤمنة الحذر من ذلك, and therefore it is upon the male Muslim and the female Muslim, this is for tawqeed, emphasis, upon the male Muslim and the female Muslim to beware of this. ولا تجوز لهم المساعدة في ذلك بأي شيء, and therefore it is not permissible for them to help them in any way, carrying the bags of the turkey into the house, carrying the turkey in the house on Thanksgiving. It's musa'ada, it's helping them and aiding them in this affair. And some people, they say on Thanksgiving, we always hear this one, well, all I did was get a plate. Allah musta'an. How is that not, ikhwan, agreeing with them in their celebration? For from the specifics, from that which is specific to Thanksgiving is eating. What is specific from the signs of that holiday, what is specific to it is food, a feast, a festival, a feast. And therefore, if you partake in the food, you have partaken or participated in the feast. Therefore, you have agreed with them in their holiday. There's no way around it. There's no way around it. All I did was get a plate. No, all you did was participate in the feast of Thanksgiving. Therefore, you agreed with the mushrikeen in their holidays. Therefore, you imitated them and you aided them. And as we'll see in a second, this also causes something of love, mawadda, and mahabba, in the hearts of the Muslims for the kuffar and vice versa. And we'll read that in a second from the Mashaykh, inshallah ta'ala. So Shaykh Ibn Baz, he says, لِأَنَّهَا أَعْيَادْ مُخَالَفَ لِلشَّرْعِ, because these holidays are in opposition and contradiction to that which has been legislated in the Islamic legislation. فَلَا يَجُوزُ الاشتراك فيها ولا تعاون مع أهلها ولا مساعدتهم بأي شيء لا بالشاي ولا بالقهوة ولا بغير ذلك كالأواني وغيرها. And this so as to see what my point that I just made was, Shaykh Ibn Baz goes on to say, so it is not permissible to participate with them whatsoever, nor to aid them and their people and help them in any way, not by tea and not even coffee. Not tea and not even coffee, Shaykh Ibn Baz says. So you can take the turkey out of the conversation. If you can't drink tea and you can't drink coffee and you can't prepare tea and can't prepare coffee in these days, then how much more, ikhwan, that which is specific to those days of their celebrations. And then the Shaykh said, and other than this, from that which is made in their feast and like this, لِأَنَّ اللَّهُ سُبْحَانَهُ وَتَعَالَى يَقُولُ, because Allah says, وَتَعَاوُنُ عَلَى الْبِرِّ وَالتَّقْوَى, help one another in piety and righteousness. وَلَا تَعَاوُنُ عَلى الْإِثْمِ وَالْعُدْوَانِ, and do not help one another in sin and transgression. فَالْمُشَارَكَةُ مَعَ الْكَفَرَةِ في أعيادهم نوع من التعاون على الإثم والعدوان, and because associating with ourselves with them and participating with them, disbelievers in their celebrations, is a type of ta'awun. It is a type of aiding and supporting someone upon sin and transgression. And Shaykh al-Uthaymeen was asked, ikhwan, what is the ruling on giving the tahniyah al-kuffar bi'eid, Christmas? What is the permissibility of giving the celebratory, I gotta give a $10 word here, celebratory salutations, the greetings basically, of Merry Christmas and the likes of this, on the likes of these days of Christmas. وَكَيْفْ نَرُدْ عَلَيْهِمْ إِذَا هَنَّؤُونَ بِهِ, and how do we respond if they give us these celebratory salutations or these greetings on these days? How do we respond to them? وَهَلْ يَجُوزَ الذِّهَابِ إِلَى أَمَاكِنَ الْحَفْلَاتِ, and is it permissible to go to the places where there are parties or feasts or like this? يعني التي يقيمونها بهذه المناسبة, of which they put together for these holidays. So that means parties at your relatives' houses, right? And we always hear the brothers say, well, I'm going for da'wah. 364 days out of the year, you ain't sent a letter, you ain't made a phone call, and now on this one day, now, khalas, we're going to give da'wah. Allah al-musta'an ya akhwan. Barakallahu feekum. So he says, وَهَلْ يَأْثَمَ الْإِنسَانِ, the questioner continues, وَهَلْ يَأْثَمَ الْإِنسَانِ إِذَا فَعَلَ شَيْءٍ مِمَّا ذُكِرَ بِغَيْرِ قَصْدٍ. And does a person fall into sin if they do anything from that which is mentioned unintentionally? وَإِنَّمَا فَعَلَهُ إِمَّا مُجَامَلَةٍ. They may do this mujamalatin, to appease them. That just as a means of appeasement. No, that's my family. I don't want to make them feel bad. Meaning that. أو حياء, or I'm shy not to go to my family's house. أو إحراجٍ, man, I feel like I'm forced to go. My mom and them, man, if I don't go, like this. وغير ذلك من الأسباب, and other than this from the reason. So all the bases are covered, okay? All of the bases are covered in this question. So then he says, وَهَلْ يَجُوزَ تَشَبُّهُ بِهِمْ فِي ذَلِكَ. And then the final part of the question, is it permissible to imitate them in this? فَأَجَابَ رَحِمَهُ اللَّهِ. So Shaykh Uthaymin, he said, in answering this, تهنئة الكفار بعيد Christmas, and giving the salutations of the greetings on the day of Christmas, أو غيره من أعياد الدينية حرام باتفاق. The Shaykh says, whether it be Christmas or other than it, from the celebrations, the religious celebrations, are haram by consensus, by agreement. كما نقل ذلك ابن قيم, as Ibn Qayyim al-Jawziyah has mentioned and has stated, رحمه الله في كتابه أحكام أهل الذمة, as he mentioned in his book, the rulings regarding the people of Dhimma. And then he continues, حيث قال أما التهنئة بشعائر الكفر المختصة به فحرام بالاتفاق. And then he says, and as for giving greetings, من شعائر, from the outward signs of disbelief that is specific to it, then this is impermissible by the consensus and the agreement of the scholars. مثل أن يهنئهم بأعيادهم وصومهم, that for example, that one gives them greetings and they're doing their celebrations and their holidays and their fasting like this. فيقول عيد مبارك عليك, blessed holiday or happy holiday to you. أو تهنئ بهذا العيد, or blessed holiday or whatever it may be, as the people say. And specifically they say Christmas, Merry Christmas. Specifically they say Merry Christmas. ونحوه فهذا إن سلم, Shaykh Uthaymin says, فهذا إن سلم قائله من الكفر فهو من المحرمات. And the Shaykh says, if the person is safe from disbelief, if the person is safe from disbelief, he says, it is most certainly from that which is impermissible. It is certainly from the impermissible things that Islam has forbade. وهو بمنزلة أن تهنئه بسجوده للصليب. And the Shaykh said, it is similar to giving somebody glad tidings or greetings for prostrating to a cross. He said it's similar. It's similar to giving somebody the glad tidings to prostrating to a cross, he says. بل ذلك أعظم إثما. He said, rather it is greater sin عند الله وأشد مقتا من تهنئة بشرب الخمر وقتل النفس وارتكاب الفرج الحرام ونحوه. He said, rather it is greater, it is a greater sin with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala than giving somebody glad tidings of drinking alcohol, murdering someone, or doing that which is impermissible with the private parts. He said that the greetings of these holidays, these religious holidays, is even worse. It is even greater sin. Why, ikhwan? Because what is connected to it is shirk billahi subhanahu wa ta'ala. What is connected to it is disbelief and polytheism and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that which is greater. And that is from the affairs of those other sins that the Shaykh has mentioned. So imagine now, ikhwan, that it is greater now. It is greater to say Merry Christmas than it is to give somebody glad tidings and falling upon the likes of those sins that Shaykh al-Uthaymin mentioned, Allah yarhamahu. And then he goes on to say, after this, and he says وكثير ممن لا قدر للدين لا قدر للدين عنده يقع في ذلك. And many who do not have a true understanding of the religion, they fall into the likes of this. ولا يدري قبح ما فعل, and they do not know the evil of that which they have done. فمن هنأ عبد أي نعم بمعصية أو بدعة أو كفر فقد تعرض لمقت الله وسخطه. انتهى كلامه رحمه الله. And that was all, ikhwan, the kalam that Uthaymeen was mentioning, and he was quoting from Ibn Qayyim. He was quoting from Ibn Qayyim, where Ibn Qayyim ends up, so whoever gives glad tidings to a slave because of some sin that he commits, or innovation, or kufr, then he has presented himself, or he has placed himself under the threat of Allah's anger and his punishment. And then he continues, وإنما كانت تهنئة الكفار بأعيادهم الدينية حراما وبهذه المثابة التي ذكرها ابن قيم لأن فيها إقرارا لما هم عليه من شعائر الكفر. He says, and therefore, ikhwan, as Ibn Qayyim has mentioned, that those who make agreement, those who give these greetings, then they have affirmed that was the kuffar upon from their signs of disbelief. وَرِضًا بِهِ لَهُمْ, and that they are pleased with their disbelief. وَإِنْ كَانَ هُوَ لَا يَرْضَى بِهَذَا الْكُفْرِ لِنَفْسِهِ, even if he is not pleased with that kufr for himself. Even if the person is not pleased with that kufr for himself, he, by mentioning this greeting, is as if he is pleased with that kufr for other than him. And then he goes on to mention, ikhwan, after this, وَتَهْنِيَتُهُمْ بِذَلِكَ حَرَامٌ سِوَا كَانُوا مُشَارِكِينَ لِلشَّخْصِ فَالْعَمَلْ أَمْ لَهُ, and that is whether that person works with them and they give those greetings, or other than that, any relatives or whatever it may be. وَإِذَا هَنَّؤُونَا بِأَعْيَادِهِمْ, so the Shaykh goes on, Shaykh Uthaymeen says, so if they greet us with their celebrations, فَإِنَّنَا لَا نُجِيبَهُمْ عَلَى ذَلِكَ, we do not respond to them. We do not respond to them. لأنها ليست بأعياد لنا, because it is not from our celebrations. We do not respond. لأنها أعياد لا يرضاها الله, because they are from days and celebrations that are not pleasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. لأنها أعياد مبتدعة, because they are innovated days of celebration. وإما مشروعة لكن نسخت بدين الإسلام الذي بعث الله به محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم, or ikhwan, they were legislated, but they were abrogated by the legislation of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And then he goes on and he says, وَإِجَابَةُ الْمُسْلِمِ دَعْوَتُهُمْ بِهَذِهِ الْمُنَاسَبَةِ حَرَامٌ. And the Shaykh says, as for accepting the invitation of the kuffar in these days is haram. Again, I repeat, the one who accepts the invitation of their relatives in this day, it is haram. And I mentioned the relatives specifically, so as to make sure we get this across. لأن هذا أعظم من تهنئتهم بها لما في ذلك من مشاركتهم فيها, because this is greater than even giving them salutations. That's even worse than saying to them Merry Christmas, or saying and to you the same, or Merry Christmas to you. It's even greater because you are now participating with them in the days of their celebration. وكذلك يحرم على المسلمين التشبه بالكفار بإقامة الحفلات بهذه المناسبة. And also it is impermissible for the Muslims to imitate the kuffar in establishing feasts and festivals and like this in these days. Or تبادل الهدايا, or exchanging gifts. أو توزيع الحلوى, or giving out candy and sweets. أو أطباق الطعام, or preparing food and feasts and the likes of this. أو تعطيل الأعمال, or canceling work. Or canceling work, Shaykh Uthaymeen says. So therefore, if one of you has a business, keep working on Christmas. We're Muslims. Why would we cancel work? So Shaykh Uthaymeen is saying that we don't even agree with them, even in the canceling of work. Allahu Akbar. That's heavy, ikhwan. لقول النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم, because of the statement of the Prophet Muhammad صلى الله عليه وسلم, من تشبه بقوم فهو منهم. Whoever imitates a people, he is from them. And this he said, as Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah mentions the likes of this in his book, اقتداء الصراط المستقيم. And then Shaykh Uthaymeen, he says, and I'll end with this last statement of Uthaymeen, من فعل شيئا من ذلك فهو آثم سواء فعله مجاملة أو توددا أو حياء أو لغير ذلك من الأسباب. And whoever does this is sinful. He is a sinner. Whether he does so out of, as I said, trying to appease them, or whether it is out of love for them, or whether it's out of shyness, or other than that, from the reason the Shaykh said he is sinful. He is a sinner. لأنه من المداهنة, because the Shaykh said this is from impermissible flattery. Or some translate it as hypocrisy, but we'll say impermissible flattery. في دين الله, in the religion of al-Islam. ومن أسباب تقوية النفوس الكفار, And he also says, it is also from that which strengthens. It strengthens the spirit of the kuffar. They are strengthened by this. When their Muslim relatives show up to their celebrations, we're upon the haqq. They don't say the haqq, but we're upon that which is correct. Here, my Muslim uncle come every year. They brag about it. The Shaykh said, they brag about it. How many times have you heard one of the kuffar say, man, my Muslim uncle come every year to Thanksgiving. My Muslim cousin is there every year. Well, I don't know what you're talking about. My aunt come every year. I don't know what y'all on some other kind of Islam. So they brag about it. They boast about it. And this, ikhwan, is what one does when they involve themselves in these celebrations. They embolden the kuffar. And they strengthen their resolve and give them the idea or the thought that what they are upon is correct. So he says, فَوَاللَّهِ الْمَسْئُولُ أَنْ يُعِزَّ الْمُسْلِمِينَ بِدِينِهِمْ. And Allah is the one who will give might and power to the Muslims in their religion. وَيَرْزُقُهُمَ الثَّبَاتَ عَلَيْهِ. And give them firmness upon their affair. وَيَنْصُرُهُمْ عَلَى أَعْدَائِهِمْ. And give them strength against their enemies. إِنَّهُ قَوِيٌّ عَزِيزٌ. Indeed, Allah is all powerful, almighty. And the last statement, one line from al-Albani, ikhwan. Shaykh al-Albani says he was asked regarding the food, eating the food prepared by the kuffar in the days of their celebrations and festivals. Shaykh al-Albani said, لا يجوز تأييد الكفار على عاداتهم الدينية. It is not permissible to aid the disbelievers in their customs, their religious customs, مهما كانت أشكالها, no matter how they may be, whatever types and forms and shapes they may take, it is not permissible. طعام ولباس وتأييدا. He says, whether it be food or clothing or other than that, كل هذا لا ينبغي ولا يجوز. None of this should be done and none of it is permissible. And we'll end here, ikhwan, on that last statement of Shaykh al-Albani, rahimahullah ta'ala. And there are a few questions I think the sisters have sent over.